Hello everybody, welcome to the stream. I'm so excited for this one. It's actually my first ever live stream on YouTube, so I'm super excited. I've been on YouTube 10 years nearly, so it's kind of surprising that I've never done a stream on YouTube until now. Hey everyone in the chat, hi Elise, hi Richard, hi Susie, great to have you all here. I'm really excited because I'm going to be sharing with you 5 must-have drawing tools that are perfect if you want to do more realistic drawing, whether you use graphite or colour pencil. I'm going to be going through a few tools for each. So, I'm also going to be talking a bit about my drawing membership, the Level Up Art Club. This is a membership that I only open up a few times a year, and it's open now. It actually closes tomorrow. I've been getting a bunch of questions, so I'm going to also be answering a few questions in this stream and also showing you behind the scenes into the membership of what it'd be like if you joined. But I want to get straight into it because I'm really excited to share with you these 5 things. Hello, Lorraine. Great to have you here. So, with the membership, it basically is going to help you go from maybe a place where you haven't drawn in years or you're a bit frustrated with your skills not improving to feeling confident, enjoying all of your drawing sessions and actually starting to create drawings that you're proud maybe to frame or even gift to others. So here you can see some of the amazing members inside our membership and the awesome artwork that they are creating. So that's with graphite or colour pencil. I really focus on teaching you the skills that you need to create realistic drawings with a whole bunch of mediums. And you can see that in the membership, we work on a bunch of projects that we can all do together. And so it's so fun to see everyone's actual drawings of the same thing and how different people tackle it, the different struggles and the breakthroughs that they have. So yeah, I'm going to talk more about the membership later on. But for now, I want to get into the first tool. And the first tool is for colour pencil. It's one I absolutely love. This is probably one of my favourite tools for colour pencil, and it is Solvent. Comment down in the chat any of you guys that have used Solvent for blending colour pencils and what you think of it, because as soon as I discovered this, I was hooked because it is so amazing. It absolutely takes your colour pencil drawings from looking kind of grainy and looking more like sketchy to looking like absolute vibrant paintings. So this is the Zest It pencil blend. It's my favorite solvent that I use, and it's really good because it's not super toxic. It doesn't have a strong smell. It smells of nothing, and I'm quite sensitive. So if something has a bit of a smell, like if I'm using odorless mineral spirits or rubbing alcohol, it can sometimes be a bit too much of a strong smell for me. But this is absolutely perfect. So I know some of you can't get it in certain countries. So if you can't get the Zest It pencil blend, then there's lots of other options: rubbing alcohol, odorless mineral spirits, any sort of solvent. Just test it out, but keep a window open so it's not too toxic. Hadir says, no, I've used baby oil before. Yeah, it's a similar sort of thing. The only thing I'd say about baby oil is it leaves more of that sort of greasy residue. So it's not great if you want your drawings to be archival, so as in not yellow over time. And it can make it hard to layer other pencils over the top of found because the oils like the coconut oil or the baby oil are a bit sort of slick and greasy. It can be harder to get the pencils stick over the top. But definitely, if you just want a cheap way to practice this technique, something like baby oil or even hand sanitizer I've used in the past, they're great cheap options as well, just to see if it's something that you like. Joanna says, I joined on the 23rd when it opened. I'm so excited to be here. Been following Kirsty for a year on Facebook. Awesome. Thank you so much for joining, Joanna. That's amazing, and I hope you enjoy it inside. So I just want to share with you, as you can see, a step-by-step of what it looks like if you're using this solvent technique. You can see with this owl study that the first step, the top photo, it's a little bit grainy, and then In the second one, I basically used the solvent and I used my paintbrush, and it completely transforms it into looking like a painting. And can you see just how much more vibrant the colors are? They're so, so vibrant, right? And this is no extra shading on that middle one. It's just simply by adding the solvent. So I started off with that top one, did all my base layers of shading, really just built up the different tones, didn't press hard on my pencils at all. And then I just went in with a brush and my solvent and I blended it out. And then you can see on the final drawing, the final step, what's amazing about this technique is once you blend with solvent and let it dry, you can then just go over the top with your pencils. You can go over the top with lighter pencils, even white pencils, and it will show up, or darker pencils. And so it's great for animals, or I use it for this tomato drawing as well, anything like that. The only thing I don't really use it for is portraits, and that's because with portrait skin, if the colors get a bit too vibrant, then it can make the skin color look unrealistic. And so with portraits, I tend not to want them to be really vibrant, and it can be a bit hard to predict the color that the solvent is going to turn it into when you blend with it. So I actually just stick with using a different blending technique, burnishing, for when I'm doing portraits. Lots more of you joining in the chat, that's great. Thinner is also good for use, yeah. Yeah, it's really good. Lots of different ways that you can use. And I do recommend that if you are using the solvent blending technique, that you use a paper that is designed for handling something wet. So I personally love using the hot press watercolor paper. I find that it's absolutely amazing. But you don't have to use that one. Anything that's a little bit thicker and isn't too smooth where the solvent's just going to slip and slide on it, that's going to be great. Just something that can handle those wet mediums, so like a mixed media paper, or like I said, a watercolor paper is really, really good. Okay, so I just want to share a clip now of me actually using this technique. So what I want to do is I use my filbert brush, and I always make sure it's nice and clean before I actually go and blend. So if I'm moving on to another color, I will go back into the solvent and clean off that brush. And then I blend using circular motions. I go really slow. I blot off that paintbrush so that I don't have too much on my brush. Otherwise, it just creates a mess and it's hard to control. But I blend with these circular motions and look at it with this strawberry. You can see it just absolutely does a brilliant job of just eliminating that graininess. It just disappears altogether. And you can even do a trick that I like to do where I put some white colored pencil down on my paper first to preserve the highlights, and then I blend over the top. And do you see how some of those highlights on the strawberry have just popped out? That's because I went in with white pencil first to protect them. And you can just see just a bit of solvent on a brush is all you need to make your colored pencil drawings look more like paintings. And so here, one of the things in my membership, in the Level Up Art Club membership, is you get this really premium drawing course for colored pencils, and it's called the Colored Pencil Academy. And you guys, this is a super comprehensive course. It has 70 lessons, and it builds up your skills from basics all the way to more advanced techniques, and from tackling more simple subjects all the way to tackling portraits and animals and learning all the different skills. And so here are here's just a few drawings that some of my members did from one of the projects inside that course where we were focusing on using the solvent technique. And what I love about this technique is I feel it just like opens up members' eyes to the potential of what solvent can do and how colored pencil drawings can look. So you can see that Julia, she did this drawing, and it was her first ever attempt at using solvent. And can you see just her first attempt using this technique? It just looks so amazing, so no graininess. It's just so smooth and vibrant. Gail was amazed that color pencils can even do this. And yeah, I definitely felt like that when I first tried it. I was like, this has just turned it into a whole different medium. And then Elizabeth is saying, I can't get over that mushroom. I am in denial that I did that. And that's just amazing when you get to a point where your drawing is looking so good that you just can't believe you did it, right? So this blending technique is super powerful. And just a few more here. Janine is like, this was so fun because people think that it's just a photograph. And it's one of those techniques where the more you do it, and it might take a bit of time to actually get good at it, but once you do and once you keep practicing it, it just becomes so joyful and it actually speeds up color pencil drawings. Crafty Palette is saying the color looks so vibrant. Yeah, it just makes it so vibrant, which is amazing. Hadia is saying, what is a cheaper alternative to Archer's watercolor paper? Well, I use the Strathmore papers quite a lot as well. And so Strathmore have different series. They have their 300 series, which is a cheaper paper. And I've got one here. It's normally, if I turn, so it's normally like yellow for the 300 series. And these are a lot cheaper than the more expensive series, like the 400 series or the 500 series. So really, you don't need expensive paper for this technique. Just look for a watercolor paper, any hot press watercolor paper. It doesn't need to be super expensive. Just whatever you can get. Just try and get it a little bit thicker, and so it's not too thin where the solvent is just going to rip the paper. But you don't need an expensive brand. I would recommend a watercolor paper, even if it's a cheaper one, would be great. So I also now want to show you the brush that I use. I use this one for blending with solvent because this one, you can see when I'm pushing it, is quite sturdy. And I found that this is like the ideal brush for blending with solvent. I've tried blending with cotton buds, I've tried blending with solvent with blending stumps, and I've definitely found that this specific brush works really well. And this is a filbert brush, and because it is more sturdy, it just means that you can really work the brush into all of the nooks and crannies of the paper and really blend it out. So I recommend using this over this type of brush, which is just like more fluffy. It's just harder to have control and the bristles just sort of get everywhere, whereas this one is just really sturdy and you can really have more control and work the solvent into the colour pencil shading. One mistake that I would avoid, because one thing that I see with my members is that they try the solvent technique, but at first they really struggle with it. They're like, am I going to like this? I don't like the results I'm getting, right? And that's because even though this technique is amazing, there are some mistakes that can happen and it can be hard to sort of get used to this technique. So for example, some common mistakes that I see are using too much solvent, so not blotting off that brush enough to the point where there's so much solvent on your brush that it's hard to keep control. And the other biggest one would be not applying enough shading to start with. So if you don't have enough shading down on the paper, then you're still going to get a grainy result because there's just not enough pigment down for the brush to actually merge together and fuse together and create that painting look. So if it's not working for you, try more shading and blotting off your paintbrush and pressing a bit harder on the brush as well. I do tend to press a bit harder with this to really work it into the actual paper. So before I move on to the next tool, I'm just going to see if you guys have got any questions. Love this look when I use Gamsol. Yeah, I've never actually tried Gamsol. That's one of the ones I haven't tried. Bob says, what about watercolour pencils? Well, with watercolour pencils, you can get a similar result just by using the water. So the only reason we have to use a solvent with colour pencils to get this look is because they're wax-based or oil-based, and water just isn't going to blend them together. it's like if you try to mix water and oil, they just don't work together. So you can just use water with watercolor pencils to get the similar sort of look. So now I'm going to move on to the electric eraser. This is my electric eraser. So this is actually the Art Me electric eraser. I got this off of Amazon. Really cheap, but what I love is it has this tiny little eraser, whereas some of them can be just quite chunky. But because this is so small, it's actually really, really great for tiny details. And this is why I love this tool, because it works with colored pencil, it works with graphite, and it just gets those details that it's just hard to get with some bigger erasers. It just gets all of those lighter details and textures. So this is how I use it for my different mediums. For graphite, I tend to use it a lot for things like flyaway hairs, for different patterns like the lace and fabric, for fur. There's so many uses, as well as just highlights in an eye or something like that. And all you need to do is just do your shading as normal, and then use this little electric eraser, turn it on, and it's going to lift up that graphite to reveal a nice highlight. So it's really, really great. I also use it for colored pencil, as you can see in the bottom image there, that you can just use this electric eraser straight on colored pencil to lift up highlights. It's great for that. And this can be good because with colored pencil, sometimes our white pencil just doesn't show up after all of our layers of color. So this can be a way that we can lift up some of that colored pencil so we can actually get brighter highlights. Because a problem that I've seen, as you can see in this top red image, is that white pencil doesn't show up well once you do really heavy layers of colored pencil. Have any of you guys had that, where you're building up your layers of colored pencil and you just get to a point where you're trying to add lighter colors over the top, maybe some highlights, but the white pencil or a light pencil just doesn't show up anymore? I had this problem for ages, and then I did this trick and it just made everything so much easier. So much easier if I wanted to do whiskers or highlights in the eye. It just made it so much easier. What I would do is I would actually, step one, I would take my electric eraser and erase the areas I wanted the highlights. So you can see with step one, I'm just lifting up the color pencil with that eraser. And then step two is then you go in with your white pencil, and just by doing that middle step where you erase it first, that actually gives you really bright highlights. Can you just see in step two how much brighter those highlights are? And that's just because I removed the shading with the eraser first before going in with the white pencil. Some of you guys are saying that you love the Tombow Mono eraser. Yep, absolutely amazing too. I feel like I've got mine somewhere. Yeah, so this is the Tombow Mono eraser. For everyone talking about it in chat and wondering what it is, it's this one. So with the Tombow Mono eraser, which is also great, you basically just click it in, and it's not a motorized eraser. You just use it to create textures. Great for fur. It doesn't create as bright highlights or as sharp of a highlight, but it's brilliant for adding some texture to your drawings. I use this all the time as well. And that is the exact brand that I use, the Tombow Mono eraser. Bob is saying China White or Caran d'Ache. I personally like the Caran d'Ache White. I've not actually used the China White, so I can't comment on that one. I tend to use Prismacolor pencils and Caran d'Ache Luminance. I also use the Polychromos, but their white pencil I found not to be great. It's not super opaque, and because it's not waxy, it doesn't really stick well. So I normally always use the Caran d'Ache Luminance White because it's just so much more opaque. But I've heard other artists say that I don't know if it's the Derwent Chinese White or if there's another one, but I've heard that that's really good as well. Hi, Alexis. Going back here, I just want to show you a clip now of the actual eraser. So With this electric eraser, you can see it just lifts up darker graphite so easily. And I love it because it gives you a really clean line and it gets really light details and it removes also really, really dark shading. And so this can be used in so many different ways. I use it to create like little dots, little highlights in the eye. I use it to create lines, for example, whiskers. And look how tiny those details can get and how like sharp the lines are. They're amazing. But here you can see the stick eraser is also great. You can use that to create little details, but it is harder to lift up the graphite using the Tombow mono eraser. So you can use it, but for really dark areas, the electric eraser just cuts through the graphite easier. And you can see here, I'm just using that electric eraser to lift up that graphite, and it's great for those flyaway hairs. And it's those flyaway hairs that just give so much more motion to the hair and make it look more natural. So it is really great because a lot of the time when we think of details, we think of using our pencils, think of going darker. But yes, you can use your pencils to get darker details, but you can also go lighter and create light details. And to do that, you need an eraser. So I really recommend this one. I've seen someone ask what it is. So once again, this is the Art Me electric eraser, and I got mine from Amazon. So Art Me. But again, you don't have to get that one. I would just look for one that has a small, one of these small erasers because it just makes it easier to get small details. Okay, the next tool is another one for colour pencil, and it is so good. It is so good. If you guys like drawing animal fur, then this is the tool for you. Or if you like drawing portraits and you like drawing hair, then this tool is a must try for sure. And it's this X-Acto knife. So can you see it's just a very small crafting knife. So you can get these again, Amazon, doesn't have to be any particular brand. I've tried all sorts. Doesn't matter, just get any old one, it's going to do the job as long as it's a small little craft knife. And so what this does is it actually scrapes away the top layer of colour pencil. So you apply a light layer of colour pencil first, then go over the top with your other layers, your darker layers, your shadows, and then you actually go in and you scrape away the top darker layers of colour pencil, and it reveals those lighter details underneath. And this is just amazing because you can get really, really fine details so easily. So I used it in the dog drawing for the fur and the whiskers. So I didn't preserve those whiskers at all. I just used the knife to scrape them away afterwards. I used it for the older man's eye study. I used it for the wrinkles and creases underneath his eye. And for the closed eye study, I used it for the eyebrow hairs. So there really is so many uses for this tool. I love the X-Acto knife. It is useful for creating templates for my Arabic calligraphy work. Oh, cool. Yeah, I'm sure there's so many different uses for this knife. Are wax-based colour pencils easier to blend or oil-based colour pencils? I found that wax-based tend to be a little bit easier because they are softer of a core, but you can blend polychromos and oil-based easily as well. But the waxier ones I found tend to blend a little easier. So for the knife trick, you want to apply a light layer of colour pencil first. So I've got the cream tone, and then you build up your other layers of shading. So this is going to be a little fur sample. Get darker and darker, and then you can use the knife, as you can see, to just scrape away that top layer of colour pencil. And it is just scraping. You don't want to damage the paper. You're not cutting into the paper. You're just simply scraping away that top layer. And can you see how it just adds so much detail so easily? This is something you wouldn't just be able to achieve using the colour pencils on their own. You wouldn't be able to preserve all of these little highlights. This is only something that can be done using a tool like this. And can you see, I just love using this technique. It's so satisfying to do something and then bring all of the textures out using the X-Acto knife. Oh, look at all those details. It's just so nice to see them all. But yeah, I want to show you. This is the drawing that I did using the X-Acto knife. You can see all the close-up details. We've got lots of texture for the fur. You can do really short markings. I also used it here for the nose. So do you see those little like dots? You can use it for that sort of texture. It doesn't just have to be lines. You can use it for lots of different textures. I even used it a bit on that water, well, the sort of highlight in the eye. Lots of different uses. And this was actually a class that I did inside the Level Up Art Club membership. So every month there's a new training, whether that's a workbook or a class, something to work on. So every month in the membership, there's something new to work on to build your skills. And for this class, we were focusing on more advanced colored pencil techniques and drawing this dog. And so we didn't just draw the dog. I also show how to plan out the drawings, because I found that actually picking the colors, picking what techniques that you want to use or how to approach the tricky areas can be a really challenging part, just knowing how to even approach a drawing. So I very much focus on doing the whole thing, going through where are the different values, how do we pick the different colors so that we're getting colors that meet the full range of values. And for those of you that don't know, values basically just means how light or dark your shading is. And to get a drawing to have contrast where it really pops and has depth, you need both light tones and dark tones. So I go through picking colors in a way that makes sure that you're hitting all of your values, and I test out the X-Acto knife technique so that before you go into the drawing, you know that the techniques you're going to use are going to work. So you don't approach a drawing feeling frustrated and making mistakes and feeling stressed. You can just enjoy the process knowing that you've planned it out. So that's just one of many things inside the membership. But once again, I'm going to talk a lot more about the Level Up Art Club membership and how it can help you create more realistic drawings later on. So the next thing I want to share is a very, very cheap supply, which just fell on the floor, and that is tissue. Tissue, and this is just tissue from your toilet sort of tissue. This is really great for blending graphite, blending charcoal, not for blending colored pencil, but this is great for graphite and charcoal. Because what you can do is you can apply your shading and then you can go in with the tissue and just blend it out like this. And this will give you a smoother result than, say, a blending stump. Blending stumps are brilliant. So this is a blending stump. These are brilliant for blending, but for blending smaller areas. But what I found with many of my members inside the membership is that sometimes, say if they're blending out the skin on a face, it will look a little bit patchy, and you can kind of tell that they've used a blending stump because some areas will be a little bit darker and you can sort of see more of the start and stop points of where they've used the blending stump, and it just has a bit more of that dirty, smudgy effect and patchy look to it. Whereas if you use the blending stump for small areas, for example, blending the nose or mouth, and then use tissue for blending large areas, that's just going to give you a much smoother result. It eliminates so much of that graininess, and I love it for blurry backgrounds and skin or any area that's larger that I'm trying to blend out. So this is great. As you can see, there you can see a swatch of me blending it out with tissue. Can you see how smooth that shading is? It really works well at filling in all the grain of the paper. And it's just a supply that you have already in the house, most likely, that you can easily just use, and it makes a world of difference. You can also use cloth, so that will give you a similar effect as well. And to really set yourself up for success with blending using any technique, you want to make sure that when you're doing your shading, you're trying to do it nice and smooth. So here on screen, you can see that I've got some smooth shading and neither of these have been blended out. So just smooth shading where I really work either in circular motions and I just overlap it, or I'm doing the sort of back and forth motion, but I'm making sure that I'm overlapping my lines. What you want to avoid is having gaps. That's where your shading starts to look streaky, when you're doing back and forth shading, but you're sort of leaving gaps between. You're not overlapping or going really slow and carefully and just taking it slowly. If you do big movements, you're going to have gaps, and it's just going to make it so much harder to blend it out. If you start with something that's smooth, you're going to get a better result when it comes to using a blending tool. But if you're already starting with streaky blending, streaky shading, then it's just going to be harder to actually blend it out, even if you're using a great blending tool. Makeup pads work too. For blending, yeah, I'd imagine they'd work really well. Do you draw florals? I've drawn some florals. I kind of draw everything, really. I really dive into a bunch of different mediums. I tackle all sorts of subjects. Over the years that I've been drawing, I've kind of drawn it all. Flowers, portraits, animals, because I very much have the philosophy and the belief that if you understand the why behind realistic drawing and the skills, then you can approach it to anything. You don't need a different skill set if you're drawing a portrait compared to an animal or a tomato or a flower or landscape. It's all the same sorts of fundamentals, value, lighting, blending, shading, sketching. They're the same sorts of fundamentals, and you might have to create different textures, but if you understand your tools deeply and their capabilities, then you get to a point where you have the skill set where you can draw whatever you want to draw and get a great result. And that's always my hopes with the membership, is that I'm not just sort of showing you what to do and you're following along with me. It's very much about equipping you with the why behind the drawing, so that you have these lifelong skills that you can go and then apply to your own projects. Because most of us want to draw things that are meaningful to us, whether that's our family members or our pets. We want to gift it, draw a family member's dog and give it to them as a gift for Christmas. And you're not going to find a ready-made tutorial for that. So you need to understand the why behind how to pick the colors and how to pick the best blending technique and the paper and how to do all the values and get depth. And that only comes from truly understanding the skill set, which is what my courses inside the membership will teach you. Inside the membership, you get 2 premium courses, really comprehensive, there's 100 lessons in total in both, together in those 2 courses, the Colour Pencil Academy and Drawing Decoded, and they take you through those skills. So you're scaffolding your knowledge in a way, starting off easy with the basics, getting those fundamentals down so that you're not too overwhelmed, and then slowly adding that complexity, adding those skills to the point where you can then see your reference you want to draw and know how to pick the colours, know how to swatch out the values, how to get a ton of depth, and how to capture that likeness. So, yeah. So here I just want to show some of my members' drawings. Every month in the membership, we do a monthly critique session where members send me in their drawings and I do a long critique session, sort of breaking down what they can improve on and stuff like that. So these were 2 members' drawings, and you can see that they both have that similar sort of problem where there's a bit of graininess, it's a bit streaky, and this is what I meant, that if you do your shading with gaps, then you're going to end up with a drawing that looks streaky. And even though the tissue can fix graininess and fix streaky shading to some extent, it will definitely improve it. It's just a lot easier if you get smoother shading to start with. So avoiding having gaps and doing your shading with the lines closer together. Just going really slowly as you shade, taking it slower so that your lines are overlapping more and you don't have this massive gap. And so here's what the tissue looks like when you blend. So I'm just blending out a blurry background here, and I love using tissue for this. I press quite firmly with the tissue. I always love to wrap it around my finger, and I'm just going in and blending in circular motions with a bit of pressure to really work the pencil into all of the white nooks and crannies of the paper. And so tissue can be a great way to get that blurry effect because it's naturally going to give you softer edges. You're not going to have the really harsh edges. It's going to be blurry. It's going to be more out of focus because everything's very soft. So that is how I would use the tissue, and I definitely recommend experimenting with it and seeing if it's something that you like. I definitely recommend just using it for larger areas, not for smaller areas, because it is harder to control for the small details and you will just end up blending everything out. So for that, I would recommend blending stumps. The final thing that I want to talk about is a brush. So a fluffy brush. This is actually great. You can see that I've already got some shading on it. This is actually another great way that you can blend out your graphite or charcoal shading. So there's two ways you can do this. You can either apply your shading to the paper first and then blend over it with the brush, or you can actually create like powder from your graphite, and I tend to do this by get something like this, like a sandpaper block. I feel like we see these in a lot of drawing sets and we never really use them, but this is a great use for them. You can get your charcoal or graphite pencils. You can do it on the sandpaper, get a bit there, then dip your brush in it, and then you can apply the shading to the paper with a brush. And you can use bigger brushes if you want to cover a larger area. And what that does is it means that you're getting a very smooth base layer down onto the paper, and it just gives really smooth tones, and it completely means that you don't get any graininess. It's great if you're trying to build up shading for the skin on a face. What paper do you use for graphite? For graphite, I tend to use the same sorts of paper if I'm using colored pencils or graphite. So I tend to either use a Bristol smooth paper like this, but I'll normally use like the 500 series, one that's a bit more expensive, or I will use the hot pressed watercolor paper. And this is great because it's nice and sturdy, but and thick, and it's great for building up lots of details and layers, and it really handles a lot of those techniques like blending stumps and brushes and all of that good stuff, and erasers. But it's also so smooth, it's smooth enough where you're not going to have a ton of texture and graininess. And I just stick to those, but it really doesn't matter. I would just experiment. I do like smooth surfaces a lot of the time because it just helps cut down on that graininess, and it tends to mean that you get finer details and it's easier to get little details. Whereas if you're using a more textured paper, it can make it really, you'll be like making it harder for yourself to get rid of all of that graininess and to actually get small details and fine details. So I actually used the brush on this drawing. This is one that I used it for the face. I used it for the chin, and I also tend to use it often for hair as well. And you can see it's just really nice for giving you that smooth look so that you don't have a ton of graininess on the skin, because sometimes you just want to add a bit of value to the skin, and you don't want to just add lots of shading, especially if you're drawing like a baby or a young child and you want their skin to be really, really smooth. So here's actually the drawing. You can see it a bit closer up. So I used it a lot to blend out this area. And because you're just basically brushing the graphite onto the paper, you can then more easily erase it. And this was another one of the monthly classes inside the Level Apart Club. So again, we went through lots of things to start with. We don't just dive into the drawing. We go through things like when there's tricky textures, we cover how would be best to approach them. We test out like the fabric, the nose with the freckles, the hair, because I don't know about you guys, but when I started out drawing, I would get to a point where there would be intimidating textures, whether that's the hair or a clothing pattern, and I would just be intimidated and rush through them, or I would just not do them. So I would, for example, if it was a complicated clothing pattern, I would just leave out the pattern and make it like a plain t-shirt, or not a tartan print, because I was just like, that's too overwhelming. Let's just make it plain to make it easier. Or with hair, I would like be intimidated by so much hair, so I might crop it in a way where there's not as much hair. I don't know if any of you guys can relate to that, but yeah, you don't want to get to a point with realistic drawing where you're scared and intimidated by those harder parts that you just rush through them, because it can detract from the realism of the whole piece. So it can be really great to experiment and practice before you start a drawing. And so here's what I mean with the brush. So I created some charcoal powder here. You can do the same thing with graphite, and I just get a bit on the brush, and you can see that I can just then go straight in with that brush on my paper, and depending how much charcoal you have on it, you can see you can create loads of different values from dark all the way to really light. And you can use a whole different bunch of brushes for this. So often I've used large makeup brushes that are really fluffy. And with this sphere, you can just build it up in layers. You can have a little bit on the brush if you're feeling a bit like unconfident with it, and you can just add more and more, and it gives you this really nice smooth result, which is great. And so here I'm using it, as I said, to do the shading, and you can switch your brushes, switch sizes depending on the area that you're filling. I just added some lines for the hair, and you can see that I'm able to use that charcoal powder from the lines to fill in the rest of the actual drawing. And it's great because with charcoal and graphite, sometimes it can take us a long time to do a drawing, but this is a great way to speed that up. So a brush is a great way to blend out your graphite and charcoal. I recommend testing it out. You can use any types of brushes. It doesn't have to be a super expensive brand. It can just be makeup brushes, just something fluffy. The fluffier the better. I don't really use the sort of sturdy brushes. I showed it for that demo, but for like a portrait, I wouldn't use sturdy brushes because I don't want it to look patchy. I'm just trying to use really soft brushes. Okay. Beautiful, love charcoal, but haven't yet tried charcoal powder. No, I've never actually used charcoal powder like in a tub. I tend to just use the pencil on the sandpaper block, but you can definitely buy the charcoal powder, and it will probably save you some time, and you'll probably get more for your like money, because a lot of the charcoal just gets put on the sandpaper. So Kanaka says, ballpoint pens are my medium of choice. Would I learn/benefit from this? I don't know if you're referring to the technique or the membership, but definitely not from the technique, because it's not going to blend the pen. So I'm assuming the membership. Yeah, I mean, the membership is more focused on realistic pencil drawing. But again, like I said, we teach the fundamentals in that membership. Drawing Decoded, we use graphite, but all of the fundamentals are applicable no matter what medium you're using. So it's much more about going through what is value, how's lighting, how do we look at our reference and know where the shadows are and where the lights are and create depth in our drawings. How do we do the different shading techniques like hatching, cross-hatching, which would still be applicable to ballpoint pen. I even have some ballpoint pen things in there in one of the sketching classes. So it is applicable, but it is more focused on realistic pencil drawing. So there's not going to be a whole ton of like tutorials to follow along with in ballpoint pen. What do you think about using the grid to draw? I love using the grid method for sketching. It's one of the methods I teach inside the Level Up Art Club for sketching. I think it's great when you're doing a portrait because you can really capture that likeness. You can do less squares if you're drawing something where you don't have to be super precise, like a flower or a landscape where you have a little more room for error. But then if you are doing a portrait or an animal where you want it to be really accurate, you can have more squares, and it just makes it easier to get more reference points and to use squares to help you figure out where things are. So yeah, big fan of the grid method. So I also just want to go through an extra bonus tip. A supply that I think every graphite artist needs to have is a really dark pencil. Because one of the most common mistakes that I see with members is just not getting their shading dark enough. Their shading is just too light. And so when you have a darker pencil, you can get in those darker values. You can see here that I've swatched out my drawing that I did, that girl. And those shadows, you can see they're really dark. They're basically black. So we need to be able to get really dark to get all of that depth in there. So I love the Faber-Castell matte graphite pencils. You can see a nice big picture of it here. It's the 14B pencil, a 14B. Normal graphite sets only go up to 8B, but this bad boy goes up to 14B, and it's so good. It gets so dark. So it's perfect for adding more depth to your drawings. A HB pencil alone isn't going to give you a ton of depth. It just can't get to those darker values. It kind of just can get to the midtones. So to really get that realism, you need to get in those darker tones, and having this pencil is great. It's the matte pencil, so it has way less shine, still a little bit more of a shimmer, but it doesn't have that really reflective shine that you can get with like an 8B pencil from a normal pencil set. So I recommend picking one of these up. If you can't get this one, then also the Staedtler Mars Lumograph Black is another great set that gets a similar result. But I recommend having a darker pencil and something that is darker than maybe an 8B from a normal graphite set, because even that is still like a dark silver. If you don't have them, also I love using the black Polychromos pencil. That tends to work nicely as well. Not a wax-based colour pencil. The oil-based seems to work nicely. And they seem to layer well as well. And so what I've noticed with many of my members is that once they understand value and this idea that you need to go darker with your shading, you can just see how much improvement my members have seen by just learning one skill, not from like years of practicing or doing loads of different drawings. Like some of these, it was just like their next drawing, or they just redid a drawing a couple weeks later after learning this skill. And it can just be that where you just need to learn a couple things or just to see things differently, and then you'll see massive improvement. And you can see how much more depth these drawings have. And inside the membership, I have a course called Drawing Decoded. It's a really comprehensive course that teaches you the fundamentals of realistic drawing. And this is where we go through these things in depth, like edges, value, lighting, and you start to see real difference in your drawings. One thing I want to say is when it comes to realistic drawing, you don't need talent. You don't need years of experience, and you don't need hours every day to practice to see dramatic improvement. I feel like this is something that can hold us back. We think, oh my God, I need to have like 2 hours a day to practice. So I haven't got that at the moment, so I might as well not try just yet. Or I wasn't born with talent. I'm not really an artist, so I won't be able to draw that realistically. And I haven't been doing this for years. I've only just started, so I'm not going to see loads of improvement. And it can be all these things that hold us back. But I just want to show you, look at David's transformation. So David is one of my members inside the Level Up Art Club. He only started drawing in April this year. You can see one of his early drawings. So this was before he joined the Level Up Art Club. So then in June, when we opened the Level Up Art Club, David joined, and you can see in just a few months' progress, the dramatic difference in those drawings. Can you see what a big difference he has made? Not only is his sketches more accurate, but the shading has so much depth and value. We've got textures in there. Doesn't this transformation just look amazing? And it wasn't because David had years of practice or hours all the time to practice. It was that he was following structured guidance. He was following a curriculum that builds up your knowledge, teaches you what to focus on and what's going to make the difference. And sometimes we can get to the point where we're plateauing and we're not making progress just because we don't know what to focus on. We don't know what's holding our drawings back. We don't know what we should be working on. And so we tend to just keep practicing those same mistakes over and over again. And it's one of those things where our drawings won't improve if we are just reinforcing bad habits and we don't know what to work on. And so inside the membership, what's great is you have so much teaching, but you also have support where you can come with your drawing, post it in the community, or submit it for our critique sessions, and you can get that personalized feedback on what should you be working on, what would be the area that would make the most improvement fast, and what parts of the membership should you work on. So you get that guidance. So you're not just frustrated, banging your head against your drawing table, thinking, why aren't my drawings improving? And just feeling like you're not good enough, you're not never going to be able to draw realistically, you're not going to get there. Because one thing I've learned from teaching realistic drawing for 10 years and having over 20,000 students inside my courses and programs over the years is that anyone can learn to draw. You don't need a bunch of talent. You just need to follow some guidance to make progress. And you don't need a whole bunch of time. Even just like 30 minutes a week is enough if you are working on the things that are going to make the improvement. So to prove this, I just want to show some of my earlier drawings. You can see that when I started out, I wasn't the best. So these drawings, you can see they look fine, but they're nothing amazing. They're not super realistic, right? I feel like they look like a lot of more beginners or maybe advanced beginner sort of drawings. They're definitely not really realistic and amazing. A lot of, if you look at the avatar drawing, you know, we've got basic shading, not a whole lot of depth, very much one color for each area. I'm doing outlines. So at this stage, I didn't really know what I should be working on. I was struggling with proportions. I felt like my shading was flat. And this just shows that I wasn't born with a bunch of talent or just able to draw realistically straight away. I am in very much the same position that a lot of beginners are in, where we're just figuring things out. We're not great at proportions, we're not great at our shading, but we want to get better. And so at that point, when I started, I often felt frustrated, feeling like my drawings weren't improving. And I would just doubt whether I was good enough as an artist. And I'd often leave my drawing sessions feeling more frustrated and disappointed with myself than before I started. And over time, that can just make you not want to pick up your pencil. And I often just rushed through parts that I just didn't feel confident enough to tackle, that just intimidated me. And like I said, I just felt lost with how to improve. And I feel like this is common for so many of us. How many of you have at times felt unconfident with your drawings, like you don't know how to improve or intimidated by certain areas? It can be really, really daunting, and it can turn a skill and a hobby that's meant to be really relaxing and joyful into something that adds more stress to our life. And it shouldn't add more stress to our life, right? It should be something that makes us proud and fulfilled and is really enjoyable, gives us that me time, not something that we just feel disappointed with ourselves in and frustrated all of the time. So Alexis says, how do you blend colour pencils without a solvent? Burnishing technique is also great. I have videos on my YouTube channel, and like I said, I talk about this a lot in the Colour Pencil Academy. So this is where you're just using more pressure on the colour pencils to actually blend it together, doing layers and then applying more and more pressure on those colour pencils as you do more layers and as you get to the point where you want it to be a nice smooth layer. So I was at a point where I was frustrated. It was just taking me ages to improve, and it took a lot of trial and error for me. But it definitely doesn't have to for you, because I feel like I've gone through all that trial and error, all of the mistakes, all of the frustration to figure out what works, what doesn't work, what's important to focus on, and what are the skills that are most important for realistic drawing. So imagine feeling confident, knowing that when you picked a reference, you knew that you could tackle it. You didn't just pick ones that were easier because the complicated ones just felt out of reach. You could just pick whatever reference you wanted, maybe of a loved one or a pet, and you just could come and draw it. You knew you had a plan and you knew how to approach it with confidence. And then you felt proud of your drawings. When you finished them, you went through the drawing session, instead of doubting every decision you were making, every color you were picking, each blending technique you were using, you were just relaxed, maybe listening to some music, an audiobook, watching the TV, and just having a good time. And then when you finish the drawing, you feel proud of it. You feel like, oh my God, maybe I am a real artist. Maybe I can do this. And you get to a point where you're excited. You want to frame it and put it on your wall or gift it to someone you love. That's amazing. And that in itself can make you excited to want to pick up your pencil again. And so this is what happened with many members inside the Level Apart Club. So Dinah is a wonderful member inside of our club, and you can see here, she's holding her first ever colour pencil portrait, just absolutely thrilled with the result. And Dinah says, joining the Level Apart Club is the best decision I have ever made. And Dinah was someone that was a bit scared. She was a bit apprehensive, like, should I join this? I'm not used to sharing my work online with a community. And so for a while, she just sort of observed the community and then dipped her toe in sharing. And now, honestly, she's just one of the most active members inside the community, absolutely loving it, loving seeing other people's artwork and other people's journey. And she's making the most of it. She's going through those courses, and she's submitting her drawings for critique in the monthly critique sessions, and she is asking for a lot of feedback in the community. And doing that is how you just grow. Because inside the community, I also have an expert on my team called Alice. She is amazing. She has like so many degrees in art. She's been a published illustrator for years and years. And so there's always that expert advice to help you keep progressing. So it's been amazing to see Dinah's progress. And same with Gemma. She has learnt so much. She has now felt confident enough to draw her grandkids, families, and pet portraits. And she says joining the club is worth it. It's the best club she's come across, which is just the highest honor, really. It's amazing helping so many wonderful artists from all around the world, of all ages, of all abilities. It's great having such a kind, safe, supportive community. So now I want to talk a bit about the Level Up Art Club, exactly what's in it, answer some questions, and go through a little bit of a behind the scenes, show you inside the club. So as I've mentioned a bit, there's two courses inside the Level Up Art Club: Drawn Decoded and the Colour Pencil Academy. Plus, when you join the membership before doors close tomorrow, they're closing super soon, and then it's going to be a long time before I open them again, potentially not even this year, you get the bonuses for those courses as well. So there's so many juicy, valuable things in this membership, which you get instant access to when you join. Drawn Decoded, again, it goes through all the skills you need for realistic drawing, regardless of what you're drawing, regardless of what medium you're using. You can go through that and learn all of the fundamentals, and you'll understand the why behind the drawing, not just following along with me for something. And Drawn Decoded is packed with workbooks, It's packed with masterclasses and projects to tackle. So you're going through the course, you're learning the skills, but you also have so many things to practice on. Workbooks where there's smaller things that are less overwhelming, so you can just dip your toe in. If you only have like 10 minutes or half an hour to do something, you can still make progress working on one of the exercises in the workbook. And then there's the bigger masterclass projects where you can put it all together into something a little more like a final drawing. Inside the membership, there's also this amazing library of 170 real-time projects. So this covers colored pencil, graphite, charcoal, pastel. We even have some watercolor in there. And these are 170 projects where in real time, minute by minute, you can follow along with me as we create the whole project together. And I include the sketch outlines, the materials list, the reference images. So you really have everything you need to just sit back, chill out, and have a great drawing session. And once again, even though you're following along with me, I always explain why I'm doing what I'm doing, why I've picked that certain color, why I have used that blending technique over another one, or why I'm using a certain approach for detail. I always explain the why so that you're not just following along with me and getting like a good result, but then you can't apply it to your own thing. It's really important to me that I'm equipping you with the skills and the why to understand the why behind the realistic drawing so that you can go ahead and create the drawings you want to create. So I'm going to show you all of the juiciness of those real-time projects in a minute when we go and I take you into the membership. We also have an exclusive members only community. So this is a private community hosted in the same place as the courses, so you don't have to go somewhere else. It's all in one place, and the community is amazing. It's so supportive. You can see everyone's projects from the different courses. You can ask for feedback. Like I said, the members give great feedback because you're all going through the same courses, so you're talking the same arty language. So you can get feedback from members, you can share struggles, and there'll be a ton of motivation and accountability in that community. And also, like I said, myself and we have another expert, Alice, on the team that's in there to help you out and give you feedback on your drawings so that you can keep moving and not feel stuck. And then you also get access to a monthly critique session. So this is your chance to submit your drawings to me every month, and I'll pick a selection and I'll do some in-depth critiques. And I really do them in a way where no matter whether you are getting critiqued or not, the insights are beneficial. I do it so it's not just useful for the person that's getting the critique, it's useful to everyone. And then also you get our ever-growing collection of trainings and resources. So like I said, this is the sort of ones that we do each month, like that dog I showed, or I'll show them again. So where we did this was August, where we worked on this project, and this one was our September one, where we did this whole drawing and really planned it out, because I found that a successful drawing is done a lot in the planning stage. So figuring out the values and the textures that you need to create and the techniques, because often the techniques you're using dictate the paper you should use and a lot of other things. So I really go through my process of what I think about to start with. Do I pick the techniques first? Do I pick the paper first? Do I look at values first? I go through that, and it really all comes together into something that you can apply to all of your drawings. And so now that I've basically covered what's in the membership, I want to show you inside, because doors are going to close tomorrow. And one thing I actually want to share is that if you join before we close tomorrow, not only do you get all of that juicy stuff inside the membership, but you get access to a new bonus that I've added in. And so if you join before we close tomorrow, you will get access to a live workshop with me, which is the Find Your Drawing Breakthrough workshop. And this is to set you up for success within the membership. So with this live workshop, we will draw something, a small study, something like a cat eye or, something small, so that we can kind of get an idea of your strengths and areas for improvement. So once we draw it, we're basically going to be looking at different areas that I look for as areas to improve. Things like sketching, shading, values, edges, all these things. We're going to go through this study, and you're going to try and pick out and pinpoint which areas you're strongest at and which areas you would want to improve more at. And I'm going to talk you through what to look for and how to do all of that. And you'll be following along with me as we do this drawing, and also a color matching challenge as well. And then you're going to take that and your area for improvement, and I'm going to help you actually have a personalized plan of what you should work on in the membership, where you should start to see the most improvement in your drawings fast. Because the thing is, we're all different. We're all on a different drawing journey. We all have different things that we work on. Some of us, we really struggle with sketching, but then shading just comes like second nature. And then others where we're really good at sketching, but then it's the shading that's harder. And there's loads of different things. So we need a personalized plan of what to focus on so that you can really start seeing progress. And so this bonus workshop is going to be live, and I'm going to answer all your questions as well. So it will really help you approach this membership and get the most out of it. And so you're going to get that if you join before tomorrow, and then we can do that workshop within a week or two's time once we plan that out. So now I want to take you into our lovely membership. I'm just going to see, looking. Hello, Joy. It's okay. You've joined at a good time because I'm going to show you inside the membership. Susie says, will there be live art trainings as well? At the moment, a lot of the trainings that I do are recorded because so that everyone can learn at their own pace. I'm very much aware that we all have busy schedules and we want to have that flexibility to be able to work at our own pace. But I've definitely got plans to do a lot more lives, because this is my first ever live on YouTube. I actually went live for the very first time on Tuesday. Before that, I was absolutely terrified of going live. I was petrified of it. For 10 years, I've been wanting to go live, but it's always felt so scary. But now that I've gone live, I've realized it's not all that scary, and it's easier and a lot more fun than I thought it would be. So I definitely want to bring a lot more live into the membership. So yes, I will be doing some live trainings in the membership, but I will also, like that workshop, that bonus workshop that I just mentioned, when you join that will be a live workshop. But also anything that's live will always be recorded so that you can also get the replay and watch it if you can't attend a live. We'll never have things that are just live, because I'm aware most people can't attend the lives because of different time zones. I mean, I'm in the UK and it's 20 to 10 now. So if I was doing them at a more like a mid-afternoon time, like 3 o'clock, it can be really early for some people. So yeah. So inside the community, you can see we've got a whole bunch of things here. Along the top, we've got the two courses, Coloured Pencil Academy and Drawing Decoded. We've also got the Art Class Collection, which is that library of 170 real-time projects. They're all in that. We have the community, so you can see how it's all in the same place, which is great. You can just log in and get all of your lovely membership goodies in one place. And then you've got the Level Up Art Club trainings, and that's where these new monthly things are, any resources, as well as the monthly critique sessions. So let me take you into the Coloured Pencil Academy to start with. So the Coloured Pencil Academy is broken down into 7 levels. You've got your bonuses and introduction. There's 80 lessons in the Coloured Pencil Academy. So there's so many juicy things to go into, but they're all bite-sized, so you can take it at your own pace. And with each level, it ends, as you can see, with a final project that you can tackle to put all of the skills you've learned into action. So for example, if I take you into level 2, you can see that we start creating our color chart, we go through color theory, how to like choose the right colors and picking colors for any reference, as well as layering, burnishing. And so I try to do it where you learn some new skills and then we apply it to a project, and then the next level you learn more things and you apply it to a project. And so within the actual lesson, when you dive in, you can see all of the lessons within that module in the playlist, and you also get any downloads right there as well. So any references, any worksheets that come along with it, all of your downloads are within the lesson page, as well as notes on that. And so Colour Pencil Academy, we really go through, we start with mastering black and white, because I always think that in order to master colour, you first need to have a solid understanding of black and white drawing. Otherwise, when you add that extra level of difficulty with colour, it can just be so overwhelming and you could be really setting yourself up for frustration, because to understand colour, we first need to understand value, which means that we need to be able to create drawings with depth using just black and white, just using a grayscale monochrome from white to black. And then once we've got that down and we've mastered that, then we can add this extra layer of difficulty, which is colour. And then it just becomes so much easier to make that jump. So first off, we talk about some pencil techniques, then we go through the colour selection, then we do that solvent technique. And in level 4, we go through really advanced strategies. Then we go through specific tips on drawing animals. So if I pop into the animals, we go through different types of fur and different tools you can use, as well as feathers, scales. And so there's so much juiciness in the Colour Pencil Academy. Also, you get the bonuses, which is an advanced animal training and a advanced portrait training, because I really wanted to show you how to tackle a more tricky reference. That we've got a lot of facial texture there, we've got facial hair, we've got the hat, so many different things with the stitching. So we've got all those bonuses included in the membership, which you get access to if you join before we close tomorrow. And then with Drawing Decoded, this is normally the course I recommend people start with first when they join the membership, because it really sets you up for a solid understanding of the fundamentals of realistic drawing, no matter what you're drawing. So again, 50 lessons in this, really comprehensive. Each of these courses took me a year to build. So if you're wondering why I haven't been as active on YouTube lately, well, for like the past 3 years, it's because I've been spending so much time making these courses and putting everything I have into making courses that I believe, and many of my students have said, are the best that they've come across. I've really poured so much time creating all of these workbooks, the projects, really thinking about how the skills build on top of each other. So we go through introduction, all the things like supplies that you need to get set up. Then we go through the basics. So these are things like pencil techniques, value, shading techniques. And also, as one of the bonuses, you get all of past Q&A sessions that I've done for Drawing Decoded. And what's perfect about that, having this like vault of Q&A sessions, is that you might be having questions as you go through the lessons, and students probably had those exact same questions, and I've answered them in those Q&A sessions. So in level 2, we go through the things like edges. Edges are so important for realistic drawing. No matter what you're using or what you're drawing, you need to understand what edges mean. We go through sketching. So sketching using negative space and using comparisons. I also talk about the envelope method. And then later on, we do the grid method. I go through how to give your drawings more structure and different blending techniques and texturing techniques. And then in level 3, we really go through mastering depth, things like light and shadow, simulating texture rather than copying detail, as well as how to create transitions. And so there is so much inside that course, too much to go through now. And then the third thing that you'll get, I'll just check in on the chat, see if there's any questions about those. So yeah, the price is $39 per month or $390 for the year. And that gives you access to all of the courses as well as all of the real-time projects, and it also gives you access to that ongoing support. That's an ongoing thing where you can be in that community and posting, getting that feedback. You can be in the monthly sessions, and like I said, creating new things every month for the membership. So there's just so much value packed into this membership for $39 per month. That's like £30 in UK price, and that's great. That's like the cost of a lunch out or a dinner per month. And if drawing is your thing, where it's like that's your skill, that's your hobby, maybe you're spending lots on the pencils, you know, a few hundred on the polychromos or with all the paper and everything, it can be great when you're buying these supplies to understand how to use them to the best of their ability and to get the most out of them and to get the most out of your drawing experience. And the thing is, you're learning skills that are going to last you a lifetime. So yeah, now I want to show you inside the art class collection, because this alone is worth the membership cost for sure, because this is packed with 170 real-time projects, each hours long each, right? So first of all, if I look at color pencil animals, we've got smaller studies. You can see like owl eyes, cat eyes, we've got feathers, dog ears, and it's great because if you're starting out and you don't want to tackle a massive project, you can go in and try something smaller, try your techniques. Maybe you want to practice Solvent so you can draw the owl eye or the dog or the horse eye. Or if you want to tackle, this was using an indenting tool for this dog ear, but you can practice a certain technique like that. And then as you build confidence, you can explore more in-depth projects. And so once again, each of these is super long. It's got the materials list, we've got the reference and the sketch. So you get everything you need to be able to tackle these projects. So we've got cats with the Solvent technique. I use a range of techniques so that we really can cover everything. So if we go back, we've got, again, in the color pencil, it's really broken down into categories so you can visually see what you want to do. You can really easily navigate your way through it. What category do you want? Do you want to do eyes? Do you want to do portraits, skin and features? There's so many. Each of these categories has like so many tutorials in. So it's just so valuable. And the next category is sketching. We have lots of sketching classes in there for different techniques, whether that's the grid method, as you can see here, or if you want to do a trace, like using a monitor, I show you that as well as freehanding, and also what to include in your sketch, because that can sometimes be tricky to know. So these are great little practice things to go along with what you're learning in the courses. And that's what I recommend. You can take your skills that you're learning from the Colour Pencil Academy and Drawing Decoded, and you can just have so many projects to test them on. And if you feel like testing something else, getting out your comfort zone, you can dive into watercolour. I've also got some watercolour tutorials on here as well. Once again, all in real time. Follow along with me minute by minute as I explain my techniques, why I'm doing what I'm doing, and we can go through it together. I've even got watercolour pencils here, so tiger eyes, that's a lovely drawing, and things that are more loose and expressive if you want to try something new. Also inside the watercolour, we've got portraits, where I've got some where it's fun to mix a bit of realism in with a bit of loose expressive style. And I think it's fun just trying new things, just having a bit of variety in our art practice. And then we've got charcoal. Charcoal, we've got a few different categories: portraits, animals and objects, flowers, still life, stuff like that. With the portraits, I really love charcoal because you can get just such dark values and it's just completely matte. So you can practice some charcoal drawings. This is great if you want to learn a new medium. You can do animals. We've got it all. And so I'm pretty sure you'll be able to find something in this collection that you will love. We've even got things like mixed media. So this is where I'm combining different mediums, whether that's markers with colour pencil or watercolours and colour pencil, or even here, this eye is pan pastel and colored pencil. So I really want to just reiterate that I am teaching you the skill set to be able to draw anything you want with any medium you want, and you can get a realistic result. Because that's something that I really started to pick up on the more I was drawing, is that you don't need to just be a master of portraits or animals. You can draw things realistically if you understand the skill set. So that is the art class collection. So much there to discover. But before I show you the community, I also just want to show you into the trainings part, because this finishes off the learning side of the membership. So in the trainings, we have classes that I've done. So here you can see that dog one. We've got a blending with solvent class, sketching essentials, which is great because we, again, play with some different styles. And we got that portrait. So these were like things that we added each month, and it doesn't always have to be this sort of class that we're adding each month, but we're adding something new, whether that's a workbook or a class like this, which is great because you always have something to work on. And it's important that you go through the courses, but then you have trainings to deepen your understanding, because we don't just try one project where we're practicing values and then we're a master of values. We often need to do a few to get an idea, and we're always learning, so it's always great to have new projects. And then I have a resource library which is filled with workbooks, learning guides and companion tools. So in the guides I have this colour pencil portrait guide, which literally is like 50 pages with hair colour cheat sheets and skin colour cheat sheets and step-by-steps of how to create different textures. So this is super valuable, and you can just download that, as well as lots of things like colour theory guides, and once again that gets added too. So you can see that this membership is already packed, and the membership is only 3 months old, so it's just going to get more and more valuable. And if I go back into the Level Up Art Club trainings, we also have critique sessions. So once again, every month you can submit your drawings for critique, and I do an in-depth session where I go through some advice that I would apply to improve the drawings even more. I do little demonstrations of how I'd improve things like eyelashes. They're a common thing that's tricky to draw, so I give a demo on that. So they're great, and that's your opportunity to get some in-depth feedback. Thank you so much, Bruce, for the super chat. Saying Drawing Decoded has definitely been a game changer for my art and improvement. I would also recommend anyone starting there first. Thank you for all you do on the channel. Thank you so much, Bruce. I really appreciate that. And thank you so much for being a student of Drawing Decoded. And I'm really, really glad that you've enjoyed it. And it is a great place to start, isn't it? It's just so good for giving you that skill set. Okay, now I'm super excited to show you the last but not least part of the membership, which is the community. And this community is awesome. It's so supportive and engaged, and it's brilliant. It's just so supportive. One of my favorite things about the community is that you can easily see all other members' projects from something you're working on. So if you're working on Colour Pencil Academy and you're tackling the eye study and you want to see all the other members' attempts at this eye drawing, you can just go on there and you can just look. And you can get inspired and motivated and stay accountable and get ideas. And it's just so brilliant because everyone approaches it slightly differently, has different things that they really loved about their drawing and different things that they struggle with. And it's great because different members have different skill sets, and some are great at one thing but struggle with another. You can always give advice. And like I said, there's all skill levels in this membership, really intermediate artists, but also more beginner artists. But the thing is, when you're following along with these tutorials and you're learning the skills, you'll be amazed at the results you get. I mean, I feel like a lot of these drawings look really, really amazing and a higher skill level, and you might think, oh my god, well, they're too good for, I won't be able to be that good. But honestly, you'll be surprised at the results you get when you just have a little bit of guidance and you know what to focus on. So that's brilliant. And what's great is when you join and do the challenges and submit what you've done, you get points. And in the community, we have a leaderboard of all of our amazing members. So monthly and all time, so we can see which members in the community are the most engaged, making so much progress, and we can reward them and celebrate members. So I love that the community, it feels like it has more of those features that really make it engaged and a lovely place to hang out and to connect with like-minded artists. So we've got Dana, Kareen, and Sis at the top for this month. It's brilliant. But also, as well as the challenges, we have the feed. And so it's split into 4 different threads. We have your introduce yourself section, the critique club, and also the supportive sharing and the general art chat. So there's a place where if you want critique, you can go and get that feedback. But if you just want to post and get some nice support and you don't want critique, then there's a place for that as well. So you really can post and not worry about getting loads of harsh critique, which you wouldn't anyway, because our members are so lovely. So even if you're getting feedback, it's just so constructive and just so kind and thoughtful. So you can see lovely drawing by Craig. Members are just in there, and this is Alice. She's in there, our expert, giving feedback and helping members improve. So this is always available for you when you join to sort of get help, connect with members, and to ask for feedback. So I love the community. It's really, really great. And so that is the Level Up Art Club. That's all the things inside the club. And it's also great seeing so many people joining us during this enrollment period, getting stuck in, introducing themselves, and already getting stuck into everything the membership has to offer. And so everything, all of these experiences, you definitely could be having them as well. You can be improving your drawings. We've got Janine here, who she was at a place where she knew she wanted to get back to drawing eventually, but in her area, she just didn't have something that would challenge her or something in the local community. So she joined the Level Up Art Club and kept her engaged, and look, she created this beautiful flower drawing that's amazing, learning the skills from the club, and she's hung it on her wall and it looks amazing. You can just see how proud Janine is of that drawing. The Level Up Art Club is closing its doors tomorrow, and remember, if you join before tomorrow, you get that bonus live workshop where you can pinpoint the thing that you need to work on to see fast improvement with your drawings. And then the doors will close tomorrow and we won't be opening them for a while. They only open a few times a year. So if you want to improve your drawings and you want to confidently be able to approach drawings, tackle them and be proud of your results and actually set aside time for your drawings, then I recommend joining. We've also got Craig. Craig had a lengthy time away from drawing, as I feel like many of my members have. They've not drawn for like 10 years, 20 years, as life has sort of has taken over. You don't have as much time for drawing. As a mummy with 2 little toddlers, a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, I know life can get busy, and so sometimes our art gets put on the back burner until maybe we're heading into retirement or empty nester, or we just have such busy lives that it becomes a priority to make that me time, to have a bit of time for yourself, doing something you love. So this is a great membership and great community to get back into art. And if you're feeling rusty, to actually improve your skills and get beyond what you've ever done before and really start feeling confident on your journey and to rekindle your passion, just like how Craig has had. So I would love to see you guys inside the Level Up Art Club. There's a link in the description if you want to check it out. Doors will close tomorrow, and then at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, midnight UK time. So members are in there. They're leveling up their skills. They're drawing together, and they're finding joy in every project and you could be with them. You can be embarking on your drawing journey and reaching your artistic potential that I know you have, because we don't need talent, we just need the right guidance and help and support. We need the guidance, the teaching, but we also need the support, because we all naturally come across our things that we struggle with, right? We're all going to struggle, we're all going to get stuck. And having somewhere where you can turn to when you're at a tricky part in a drawing, or you're feeling a bit unmotivated or unconfident, it can be great having that connection and that accountability, but also having the teachings that really shows you what skills to be working on. That's so valuable as well. And what's great is I am so confident this membership is what you need to improve, that I am actually giving everyone that joins my level up guarantee. So you can try out the membership for 7 days, and if it's not right for you for whatever reason, we'll give you your money back. And if you join on an annual plan, that's 30 days. So there's literally, I wanted to make this a no-brainer for you guys to join, because I know how much of a difference this membership can make to your drawing skills and the joy and fulfillment you get from drawing. And we know that drawing is more than just a hobby. It's something that can give us confidence, that can actually give us confidence in other areas when we start creating a drawing and we think, oh my God, look at what I did. It can give us confidence in other areas that we have this ability to create this amazing artwork. And it can be meaningful gifts that can feel like we're leaving a legacy. When we see it hanging on a loved one's wall, it can be amazing. And so if you guys have any other questions, then reach out to us at team@kirstypartridge.com and we will answer your questions. So it is closing tomorrow, the Level Up Art Club. So make sure you get in your questions before then so you don't miss out. But thank you guys so much for joining me. I hope you learned something from those 5 must-have tools. So Solvent, a electric eraser, X-Acto knife, tissue, and a brush. They are brilliant for just taking your drawings to that next level. And thank you guys all so much for joining me. I hope to see you inside the Level Up Art Club. So reach out to us, team@kirstypartridge.com. No matter what questions you have, just reach out to us. We're happy to help. And thank you for joining me. And I hope you have a great rest of your day.